Welcome everybody today to the Environment Regeneration meeting of the 12th or 10th of December. I hand it over to Karen.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to all members of the Environment and Regeneration Committee, you're hereby summoned to attend the monthly meeting of Environment and Regeneration Committee to be held as a hybrid meeting conducted remotely via WebEx and physically in the Council Chambers, Strabane, Wednesday the 10th of December at 4 p.m. And I'll take the register. Alderman Derek Hussey.
Aye.
Thank you. Alderman Kerrigan is running a little bit late, I think. Alderman Julie Middleton.
Here online.
Thank you. Councillor Paul Boggs.
Apologies for Paul. No.
Apologies. Okay, thank you. Councillor John Boyle. Councillor Caitlin Deany. Councillor Gary Donnelly, we have apologies for. Councillor Alex Duffy. Councillor Rory Farrell.
Here.
Councillor Sean Fleming.
And Sean.
Thank you. Councillor Emma McGinley.
On Shaw early now, Karen.
Okay, no problem. Councillor Pat Murphy.
On Shaw.
Thank you. Councillor Declan Norris. And Councillor Martin Riley.
Here, Karen.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
For the broadcasting statement, I'd like to remind everyone present at the meeting in the chamber or in attendance remotely that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet and will be capable of repeated viewing. This broadcast may be terminated or suspended in accordance with our protocol. Due to the attendance at this meeting, you're consenting to being filmed and to the use of the storage of those images for broadcasting or training purposes and for the purpose of keeping historical records and making those records available to the public. Members and approved speakers are reminded to only have their mics and cameras on while speaking at the meeting and to use the chat facility to highlight a request to speak. A copy of the Council privacy notice may be found on the Council website www.derrystrabane.com. The next item's declarations of members' interests. I'll take them now as we go on through the meeting. And next item's chairperson's business. The only person contacted me was Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Chair. And I want to bring two related items to committee, with your permission. Some time ago, members will remember when we were discussing council meeting with groups who have concerns, I had mentioned two groups, namely Bonslen Environmental Group and Artie-Garvan Environmental Group, or the residents group there. And I was told at the time, look, don't worry about it, by two councillors, two colleagues. Meetings have been arranged and will take place. Now, yesterday I had an invitation to meet with each of the groups separately. Yesterday, along with Councillor Raymond Barr, who is of course a Spurn councillor. I'm not a Spurn councillor, but I was invited to meet with groups and to listen to their concerns. And I have to say that I was extremely shocked when I was getting the facts from their side of what's going on. With regard, firstly, to the Artie-Garvan group, and I think it applies to both groups, they feel abandoned by all agencies. Now, with regard to the Artie-Garvan group, I think the only one that they feel is with them in their concerns is IPRA. They feel abandoned by everybody else. And I suppose my question is, when are we going to have a meeting with that grouping? And can we have all of the relevant players in that situation in that meeting to bring everybody up to speed? I think it's particularly important that DAERA, particularly via the Minister, would be present at that as well, because the issues at Artie-Garvan, and indeed like Patrick, which I'll come to, fall under his actual remit. He is a Minister for Agriculture, or supposed to be, but he seems to concentrate more on the environment. Well, this is an environmental issue. So why can't he engage directly with the group? And from a council perspective, it was suggested that air quality monitoring was something that the group would appreciate, but that has not occurred. Is there any reason why that has not occurred? So within that particular aspect, there's the issue of meeting with the group and all relevant players, contacting the minister, and indeed the air quality matter. With regard to the second one, if I can, or do you want to take them separately?
Yeah, through you, Chair, members, just to update members that the issues in Artigarvan relate to nuisance issues, and they are being led by our environmental health team that fall within the Health and Communities Directorate. And I do know that the Director of Health and Communities and the Head of Health have been engaging in these issues. So I can't provide any update today. Obviously, it can be raised tomorrow with Health and Communities, or indeed will also bring that back to the relevant officers for their consideration. Happy to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and I appreciate the reply from the Director. But I think, their issue, this has been ongoing since 2014, and nothing's been resolved. The Minister promised it would be resolved by July 25. I am told it hasn't been. So, is everybody sitting on their hands and doing nothing? Yes, the EHS are looking at it. Well, you can look at many a thing, but where's the action? Where's the results for the people who are suffering in Artigarvan? So, my request still stands that we need to get everybody around the table again. I know that there was, shall I describe it as a fractious meeting? But I can understand the feelings of that community and how they feel and how a meeting could become fractious. But if it's a meeting with representatives as opposed to a public meeting, I feel that progress could be made and that some reassurances perhaps and action could be forthcoming for that group. Moving on to the second item of Bonds Glen. What I witnessed in the evidence that they were giving to us was nothing other than what I would call catastrophic environmental vandalism. That's the only way I can describe what I've seen in the photographs they had. And this is within a designated area of natural beauty. And I can't understand why the various authorities are not acting on what has been seen there. Surface stripping, according to the group that I met with, unlicensed extraction of gravel and sand, water courses diverted, hedgerows decimated. Again, I feel we need to meet with that group. And again, all players involved. And again, the top bucket, Minister Muir, should be interested in that type of decimation that's happening in that area. I'm sure others maybe have seen some of the photographs, etc., from that site. But I can honestly say that I was aghast when I met with the group yesterday along with Councillor Barr. And similarly, as I say, for both groups, I'm saying there's a need for all the players to be around the table and let's find ways out of the situation that these groups are in. That's number one. And secondly, I would suggest that we should be writing either the committee rights or council rights to Minister Muir and ask him, as a matter of urgency, to come down and meet with those two rural groups who are suffering major environmental concerns in their own areas. Thank you for the opportunity, Chair.
Through you, Chair, members, in terms of the Bonds Glen issue, that is subject to planning enforcement. So I have been engaging with the planning team, and certainly I know we will take that forward in accordance, obviously, with the legislation to make sure that we're following all of the legislation carefully. And happy to update further once we have some more information in relation to that. Thank you.
If I can briefly comment again, Chair. Again, procedures and all of that sort of thing are so frustrating for residents who find themselves in these situations. It shouldn't be. That is not the way that we should be governing the area, the area that we're in charge of, and we have responsibilities. And it does frustrate me immensely, the time that it takes and I mean, this isn't something that occurred last week. This has been ongoing, and it still hasn't been resolved. And it's not to say that something happened and has stopped. Something has happened and continues to happen. So, at what stage are we going to say to the particular people who are destroying that environment there, stop, and start to reinstate the situation that you have created? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Alderman Hussey. Councillor Barr, you want to come on?
Thank you, Chair. I'm not a member of this committee. And without regurgitating everything that Alderman Hussey has just said, I just want to put on record, I agree totally with everything that Councillor Hussey has just said. The residents of Ardee Garvan in particular, I feel are not only being treated shabbily, but being treated with contempt by various agencies and by the creamery out there. In terms of Bonds Glen, I do feel those residents are being treated shabbily as well, and I feel it's incumbent on us to push for a meeting with both these groups as soon as possible. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Barr. No other chairperson's business. We'll move on to item 16. So matters arising from the open minutes of the Environment Regeneration Committee held on Wednesday, the 12th of November. I have just one item, so I'm not going to regurgitate everything that went on last month, but I had suggested about the gallery, and then we said that there would be a briefing, Councillor McGinley. So we're trying to get a briefing set up on the date. Do you want to come on, Karen?
Yep, through you, Chair, members, we have been in contact with Committee Services to try and secure a date for that as soon as possible. And I haven't got the date yet today, but it'll be open to all members to take part in that.
So I just want to add again, so there's going to be a briefing, but I'm still would like, when the briefing happens, that the gallery and the CAG is brought on, that they get an opportunity to come on the Environment and Regeneration Committee or a special council meeting to give their presentation, as well. Anybody, any other items from the open minutes? Item 7, open for decision, is street naming and property numbering language signage. Karen.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to advise members in relation to the outcome of recent applications to provide dual language signage at a number of locations as outlined in section 2.1 of your report today. Members, in accordance with our policy, Council has undertaken a plebiscite in each of the streets, and the results of those are outlined in section 3.1 of your report. So members, in accordance with our policy, the plebiscites all achieved the minimum 15% required for dual language signage to be considered by Council. So members, given the outcome of the plebiscites, members are asked to approve the erection of dual language street signage at Park Road, Castlederg, Ballygodden Road, Celandine Court, Elick Road, Fairview Road, Pelham Road, and Temple Grove, Derry, and Meenagorp in Plumbridge. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor McGinley.
Gurmaiga, Chair, and thank you, Karen, for the report. I am happy to propose the recommendation that is included. I think that it's, I'm glad to see that these are starting to come through. We know that a lot of people have made applications and that there has been a wee bit of a backlog with some of the dual language signage applications. So we're delighted to see them starting to come through for those in our communities who are Gaelgry. So just happy to propose that recommendation. Thank you.
We need a seconder. Councillor Fleming.
Chair.
Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, and you'll realise I was not coming in the second, as my colleagues in the chamber realise. Chair, I just want to make comment. I'm looking at the stats for the surveys, etc., and have to agree that the stats fall in line with what council has determined as its policy. But I would point out that there are only 2 of those listed, I think it's 8 listed, that exceed, what I would consider a reasonable figure of 50%. Only 2 of them. And I'm looking at one in particular, Ela Road or Ella Road, I'm not sure which. And there were 6 returned. There were 6 eligible occupiers on the electoral register, 3 returned. Notice that it's a 33% in favour. So 1 person on that road has determined that there will be dual language signs. To me, that is totally ridiculous. But I will be abstaining. And, the figures there speak for themselves as far as I'm concerned. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you,
Chair.
Alderman Hussey. Alderman.
Chair, apologies. That's Alderman Kerrigan, but I don't have a chat box. I'm on the mobile phone, so apologies. I don't have the chat box for the WebEx.
That's okay, Alderman Kerrigan. Come on.
So apologies that I can't, in case I'm jumping in front of anyone else, Chair. Apologise about that because I can't see. Just a brief comment, Chair. There were two streets which exceeded the 50%, as Alderman Hussey's alluded to. But as the proposal will be taken as one, the DUP councillors will vote against. We would have been content to accept the streets that exceeded 50%. I know the policy is 15 now, but we still would have been minded 50% plus 1. So in theory, you can record that the DUP councillors will vote against the proposal whenever you get a seconder. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Alderman Mullen, or Kerrigan. Alderman Mullen, please.
Thank you, Chair, for letting me in. I wish to put on record, as with my previous comments when we've discussed this in other committees, that I believe our 15% threshold to be undemocratic, and I actually think it can be quite divisive in some streets as well. I am not against any person speaking any language whatsoever, but I am against our policy of 15%. And as a rural representative, conscious of good relations and the issues that many of our residents feel surrounding their large rate payments, I can't in good conscience support this. As stated by Alderman Kerrigan just now, I do not have any objection to either of the streets who obtained more than 50%, which in my mind is a recognised democratic percentage. One area on this list, an area that I represent, had 33 responses. From my calculations, 6 were for, 27 were against. The majority replied no. So policy or not, I do remain steadfast that this is not democratic. And many of our ratepayers from all backgrounds feel the exact same. And just on a final note, the last time we discussed this, anyone who wasn't for the policy was called sectarian, but I've been contacted from people from all different backgrounds and speakers of all different languages who also don't agree with the policy. So just put on record, I'm not for this at all. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Middleton. Councillor Farrell.
Thank you, Chair, and just happy to support the recommendation on behalf of the SDLP. It just seems that every time we have a paper here about dual language signage, we have this debate about the policy that was supported by this council. So, and it's in line with the European Charter for Minority Languages, and if it meets the 15% threshold, it gets approved. And we supported that. Other parties in the chamber supported that. That is council policy. And I note Alderman Middleton's comments about some being called sectarian. I don't remember that at all. I was here the last time we had a paper of this nature. There was division. I don't remember anybody mentioning the word sectarian at all. So I would ask Alderman Middleton to reflect on that. because it's not my recollection whatsoever. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Farrell. Councillor McGinley, you'd like to come back in?
Cormaig, Chair, and thank you for letting me back on. I just wanted to say that I'm really disappointed that every time, as Councillor Farrell has outlined there, every time we have a paper that brings forward these applications that have been made by residents on these streets, that we have these comments that are against the Irish language. It's important to note that the dual language policy applies to all minority languages. I find it ironic that members of the DUP who and other councillors in other councils in the north are taking high court cases about protections for minority elements of council policy, are now stating that they are against our policy in relation to minority languages and are voting against that. You know, I just find that very, very ironic. But I think our policy is in line with the European Charter for Minority Languages. And as I said earlier there, it is about all languages. So it's so disheartening that every time this paper comes through, members of the DUP, members of the UUP raise the same argument, although this is Council's corporate policy. It's time to accept that we have agreed on it. That is democracy in action.
Thank you, Councillor McGinley. Alderman Middleton, you want to come back in?
Thank you, Chair. No, I'll be very brief. I just want to put on record that I don't represent any other council area. I represent this council area and I represent my constituents very well. I find, Councillor Farrell, I do find your comments very patronising, asking me to reflect when I know what was said and I know the word sectarian was used. It might not have been in a name-calling way, but it was directly after we spoke and we were told that the comments were sectarian in nature or in thought. So, you know, I'm not a silly person. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Middleton. Alderman Hussey.
Just a brief response to Councillor McGinley. Yes, we raised the issues and it's called freedom of speech. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Hussey. Right, so this item has been proposed and seconded. And we note all your comments.
Through you, Chair, members, I don't think we need a vote on this unless anyone else is against the proposal.
Chair, I'm abstaining.
But yeah, you're abstaining. Yes, no, thank you, Alderman Hussey. I know we noted that. So I think that passes. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. The next item's Church Town Lands LPS revaluation.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and members. Apologies for the typographical error in the title of the report. It's actually Churchtown Lands. And members, the purpose of this report is to seek members' approval for the purchase of lands at Churchtown from the Northern Ireland Housing Executive at a nominal consideration, and to seek members' approval to enter into a deed of grant of easement for the provision of access to the lands being purchased from the Housing Executive. Members, the background of this is laid out in your report, and members, following a D1 disposal process by the Housing Executive, Council lodged an expression of interest and instructed LPS to act on its behalf to determine the premium, and members, LPS have reassessed the valuation for the lands and for the easement, and members, then the recommendations before you today are that you note the updated LPS valuation obtained as to the purchase of lands at Churchtown and the grant of easement to provide access to the land. Note the need to enter into a grant of easement with Churchtown Community Association and Churchtown Property Management Limited for the provision of access to the lands. Note the purchase of the lands from the Housing Executive at the nominal consideration of £1 and approve Council entering into a grant of easement with the various agents or groups as laid out in section 5.4 of your report. I'm happy to take any comments or questions that members have. Thank you, Chair.
Alderman Hussey.
No comments, Chair. Just happy to propose the recommendations and congratulations to Churchtown on the work that they've done within their own area and providing this facility for the wider community in Castlereagh. Thank you.
We a second.
Chair.
Yes, Alderman Kerrigan.
Thank you, Chair. I'll have to abstain because I'll put a declaration of interest in regards to Northern Ireland Housing Executive, but I'll have to abstain in that regard. Thank you very much, Chair.
Councillor Farrell.
Happy to second on behalf of the SDLP. And it's brilliant news that Little is planning to build a store in Castle Derrick. Derek, you'll be glad to hear that.
We have very good stores in Castle Derrick at the minute, you know.
Thank you. So that's been proposed and seconded. The next item is church town allotments.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to seek members' continued approval for Council to assist the Community Association to provide allotments at Churchtown, and to seek members' approval for Council to enter into a shared management agreement with the association, whereby Council will be responsible for premises health and safety checks, while Churchtown would become responsible for the utility bills and daily management of the site. So, members, again, the background is laid out in your report today, and we are asking you today to give approval for continued assistance to Churchtown Community Association to provide allotments, and also to give approval for Council to enter into a shared management agreement with the association on completion of the land transfer from Northern Ireland Housing Executive. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Hussey.
Once again, happy to propose the recommendation, and I think it's actually a good arrangement for Council. Thank you.
Need a seconder. Councillor Farrell, second, as proposed and seconded. The next items are open for information, and I'll just go through them one by one. Number 10 is Broomhall and Bay Road Park.
Chair, very briefly, I think it's good news that NI Water are investing in that area of the town. But as Bay Road is mentioned in that paper, I've just got a question about the lighting strategy for greenways across the city. So we have planning permission in place for Bay Road, planning permission in place for Foyle Valley out the line, and for Drumahoe as well. And I understand Council have allocated funding for that, and we're waiting for a match funding contribution from the Department for Infrastructure. This needs to happen. You know, these are great assets that we have, but at night they're in complete darkness. We've got the planning permission in place. We've got Council funding committed. We're waiting on money from Stormont to make this a reality. So have we had any feedback from the department in terms of timescales for a decision in this funding, or the likelihood of funding in the short term? So any update on that would be great. Thank you.
Yep, through you, Chair. Members, as you are aware, we have made funding submissions for those 3 projects, which we've taken forward, and indeed Council have agreed the match funding for the projects. We have been liaising with the department, and we understand that they will be making a decision on funding the end of this year, start of next year. So hopefully we will know in the next couple of months whether or not those applications are successful. As I said, we've been trying to stay in contact with the department to provide, to advise them that we're ready to go as soon as they are, and we will bring a report back to members as soon as we know anything further. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Next item's building control applications. Next item is disabled parking bays and speed limit restrictions. Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Chair. And I want to look at the list that we have for the 20 mile per hour proposals for schools. And can I say I welcome those extremely, because as members may know, I've been crying out for the Castlereagh High School and St Eugene's Primary School in Victoria Bridge. The point I want to make, those are all very welcome, and we look forward to them being in situ. But the point I want to make is that Killen Primary School is on exactly the same road as Victoria Bridge, St Eugenians, and Castlereagh High School. And there are constant concerns in Kiln with regard to the speed of vehicles going through, particularly HGVs. This route, it's a B road, but it is the main route from the northwest through to the Lakelands, and a lot of commercial traffic is on that road. And I would ask that we would write to the department and ask if there will be a further tranche of the 20 mile per hour project, and if they will consider Kiln Primary School to be included on a new tranche if it comes forward. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Alderman Hussey. That letter we wrote. The next item is number 13, flooding update.
Yep, through you, Chair, members, it's just to make members aware of section 3.2 of the report. Members will recall at October's committee, it was recommended that DFA Rivers were invited to the committee to discuss the development of flood-related schemes in Eglinton and Drumahoe, and we have now scheduled the department to present to the committee in March. So just for your information.
Thank you, Karen. Myself, I'd just like to mention as well, up in Muff Glen and Eglinton, there's been a lot of leaky dams put in. So there is through DFA, and it's a great project. You know, my only disappointment was, and I said this to the minister when she was down opening it, a lot of groups weren't given a chance to come up. You know, and I think it was just an oversight. You know, but a lot of groups. It's a good news story. And it would have been nice to see all the groups up there too. Alderman Hussey, you want to come up?
Thank you, Chair. I want to come in particular on the Newton Stewart element of the flooding update. And I'm sure the Directorate is aware that we have a meeting on, well, Colin, I think, has arranged a meeting on Friday morning with regard to the provision of changing facilities and indeed upgrade of the play park at Bohanshome. And it falls within this particular flood issue. And I'm just seeking reassurance that as we deal with those two very important issues at Bohanshome, that this flooding issue will be taken into consideration and that what we are hearing will include mitigation against future flooding in that particular area. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Alderman Hussey. Councillor Riley.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. And through you to Karen, when she said around the Rivers Agency coming in to meet with the council, does she mean this committee, E&R committee in March, or is it a separate meeting just for the dairy planning? Thanks, Chair.
Yeah, through you, Chair, members, it's to present to this committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Alderman Millen.
Thanks, Chair. So I know there must be a delay in my typing because I was going to ask the same question as Councillor Riley. Appreciate you bringing me in. Thank you.
No problem. Next item is the Maboy update. I've already mentioned that in the minutes. The next item is the 6 monthly progress report. And the next item is environmental awards. Oh, sorry, Commissioner.
Just briefly on the 6th monthly progress report, obviously a lot of progress, a lot of activity over the last 6 months, so the entire team. Thank you very much on behalf of the SDLP. I have one question about the decorative lighting for the Peace Bridge. I know we had agreed funding for that earlier this year. I walk across it twice a day and haven't noticed it. So are there plans in place for that to be delivered? And if so, could we get timescales? Thank you.
Yeah, through you, Chair, members, we're in the process of procurement for that particular project at the minute. So we can bring an update report to members in terms of when exactly it's going to happen. I think really we initially had looked at it as two separate contracts because there's two types of lighting on the Peace Bridge. However, we felt then on reflection, having looked into it in more detail, it would be more cost effective to do it as one. So that's in the process of being procured at the minute, and we'll update members as soon as we can in terms of the progress and the timeline. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Farrell. Karen, thank you. Next item is environmental awards. Councillor Hussey.
Thank you, Chair. And, you know, congratulations to Council on the awards that have been received. They're all very welcome. And in the main, these awards would be city awards as opposed to other communities beyond the city. And I know within the Ulster and Bloom and the In Bloom awards criteria, there are other categories going beyond cities to towns, to villages, to smaller communities. And are we over concentrating on the city and ignoring the opportunities that exist, for example, for Strabane, or other communities throughout our district? I feel that we're underselling ourselves, put it that way. And then when I move to 3.5, I note that Council is to identify suitable areas across the city and district for displays, including the example that's used there is the green area at the city walls. Now, it says including, so I presume there's a list of all of those green areas that are up for consideration. And I wonder, can that be made available to members? And I'm sure members throughout the council area will have areas that they can suggest if they're not already on the list. But it would be good to know where is on the list for this type of consideration, using open spaces for larger floral display so as to maximise community benefit. And we want to benefit all of our community, whether it's urban or rural. Thank you, Chair.
Yep, through you, Chair members, I am aware that the team have had engagement with a number of different communities throughout the district with a view to try and actually encourage them to take part in some of these types of award schemes with varying success, but I will ask the team to bring a further report in to members to update members in relation to that. And certainly, yes, I'm happy to bring forward further reports in terms of any other areas that we're considering in terms of wider floral displays, etc. I think what we're trying to do is, again, to move more towards longer term projects that are more sustainable and certainly more perennial and things like that. So certainly, the team are dedicated to ensuring that we do as much as we can throughout the whole district. And there are a number of communities that they're working but I will bring a further report into members on that. Thanks.
Chair, I appreciate the reply from the Director, and I look forward to getting the list of what we have looked at to date, and hopefully myself and other councillors will be able to augment that. Thank you.
I know this item is commending the environmental awards for the council. Like me personally in my area, I like to commend the Eglinton village and the volunteers, like Eglinton Tidy village, and it's not just Eglinton, all communities, and especially in the rural areas, will go out and they do, like in Strathfoyle, we have a fella, Kevin McLaughlin, along with other people, and the work and the effort that goes on, and I know that the council helps with that, and it's just fantastic when you see that community spirit, and I think that's what we need as well, throughout the area, Alderman Hussey.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I remember a few years back, I think it might have been the Old Strabane Council, we had a site visit to Brashane, which, as some will know, has been very successful in these wards over the years, and it was community based. It was the community, it wasn't council. Now, council were assisting, but it was the community who were out doing the litter picking. They were identifying the areas, etc., and they were putting in the floral displays. So the point you make about Eglinton is particularly relevant and can be replicated throughout other areas of the council. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Alderman Hussey. Councillor Riley.
Yeah, Chair, thanks for bringing me in. It's just a flag that specifically in relation to the APSI award, I think it's worth noting that not only did council, have to have a good project in order to get shortlisted for consideration for the award, but in order to win the award, it also was the presentation and the interview application conducted by the two officers from council who went and represented the council at that application interview stage. So I think it's worth flagging that the project itself was very good, but so too had to be the skills and the presentation of the officers involved in that particular award as well. Otherwise, council would have been shortlisted, but not the winner. So I think due credit has to go to the officers for their presentation on the day. Thanks, Chair.
Very, very, very true, Councillor Riley. I think it's excellent the work that goes on. I think it has to be mentioned that the amount of work that goes on by the people on the ground, the ordinary, the effort that goes on by the ordinary people, the communities, and the workers, the council workers that make this all happen. It is a fantastic achievement, So the next, next item is I need a proposer, secretary to go into confidential. Councillor Barrow, Councillor Fleming.